Hello and welcome to the Regulatory Outlook for January 2024. We've done something a little bit different in this edition, and we've put in laws that are coming into effect over the course of the next 12 months across 18 different regulatory areas in both the UK and the EU. So hopefully you'll find this really useful when you're sitting and planning out for the year what your strategy is going to be and the areas that you need to focus on. But Chris and I got together because we thought there are two key areas that it was worth just highlighting to you. One around ESG, environment, social governance measures, and the second one around artificial intelligence. And Chris, ESG and supply chains in particular are going to be a big theme of this year.
Supply chains are going to be a really big issue that boards have to get on top of this year. There's the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive that's coming in during the next year, with the first reports due in early 2025. There's the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, which is being finalised, was progressed at the end of last year, and we expect a final version during the course of this year. And there is deforestation, which is making progress both in the UK and in the EU. So there's a lot to get their arms around.
Definitely. And companies really need to look at supply chains in a way that they've never had to look at supply chains before, really going right back to farm level. And the EUDR in particular, I would really just encourage everybody to look at the annex that sits with that regulation, because the number of commodities that are caught by that are significant, and it will mean that if you are an operator that's going to place product in the market, you have to produce and file this due diligence statement by the 30th of December 2024. So there's really quite a lot of work that you need to do before you're going to be in a position to do that.
Absolutely. And it's been really difficult for companies because a lot of these supply chain obligations have been moving targets. Some of them are starting to settle now, but others are still uncertain. And the work that's required to comply with them has long lead-in time, so there's going to have to be a lot of resource put in before the obligations are absolutely nailed down.
And the same thing really applies to greenwashing, Chris, I think, as well. You know, to be able to substantiate some of those claims, you also need to have a really good grasp of what's going on in your supply chain.
Yeah, absolutely. And the critical thing to remember is that it's not just business to consumer that catches this. It's also business to business. And it's not just adverts. It's about public statements that you're putting out there on your website and elsewhere that you really need to make sure are meeting the requirements to avoid greenwashing.
Yeah, so if you've got to really think about your sustainability strategy or policy that you're putting out there, that actually you can verify all the claims that you might be making in those.
Yeah, very much so.
So just moving on to artificial intelligence, it's been a big buzzword for 2023. It's going to continue now into 2024. And of course, we had the adoption of the EU AI Act, or the political agreement around the EU AI Act, in December of last year. And that's actually quite helpful because it now gives us a little bit more certainty around the timetabling that's going to happen around AI. And certainly businesses need to look at some of the prohibited items that will be banned from the end of this year, we expect, and also by the summer of next year. For those companies that are using generative AI, there's going to be more obligations around terms and conditions, and also how that product is actually used within your business. So there's quite a lot going on with artificial intelligence. And of course, if you haven't already done your risk assessment and looked at some of the mitigation measures, we'd really encourage you to do that as well, because really understanding how the business is going to use artificial intelligence is really critical. But Chris, how are you seeing artificial intelligence playing out?
I think businesses are finding it a real challenge to work out what standards to work to because of the divergence between the EU approach and the US approach, which is more towards legislation and a formal framework, and the UK approach that is more based on principles. Now, the UK approach may change this year. We're all waiting for a general election. That may or may not bring a change of approach. But in terms of companies trying to work out the approach they adopt, it can be really tricky for them.
Yeah, I agree. So look, lots of things to go at, lots to look at in the regulatory outlook. And if you find the outlook helpful, then we're also starting up our Eating Compliance for Breakfast webinar series. That will happen in March. That's on a Tuesday and a Thursday from 9 to 9:30 GMT. Please come and join us, where Chris and I chair these sessions, and we run through lots of topical regulatory compliance issues. Otherwise, we hope you enjoy the regulatory outlook. We'll see you soon. Thanks very much.